I moved in with someone recently, not a roommate this time, someone I actually chose to build a life with. And the first time she opened our shared account and moved money around without asking me first, I felt something I wasn't expecting at all. Panic. Real, physical panic, over $20. Last time, I found out that always being the one who's owed was really just control wearing a nicer outfit. But I also left myself a harder question. What happens in the parts of my financial life where control isn't even an option? Where money has to be shared, decided on together, trusted to someone else's hands as much as my own? Turns out, I already knew the answer, deep down. I just hadn't tested it yet. I had a roommate once, back in my early 20s, my first apartment that wasn't with family. Good guy, genuinely, named Blaze. The kind of name that tells you a little about the guy before he even opens his mouth. We split rent and utilities evenly, put a shared jar of cash on the kitchen counter for groceries and random household stuff. Toilet paper, dish soap, whatever came up. Simple system. Should have been simple. Except money kept disappearing from that jar faster than it should have. Not dramatically. A few dollars here, a few there. I brought it up eventually, carefully, trying not to make it a whole thing. He said he'd grabbed cash for something small. Meant to mention it. Forgot. Totally believable. Totally reasonable. I remember exactly where I was the second time it happened. Standing in the kitchen, counting the jar out of habit before a grocery run, coming up $11 short of what I knew should have been there. I didn't say anything that time. I just quietly started keeping a running tally in my head, a private ledger nobody else knew existed. Every time I put money in, I noted it. Every time the total came up short, I noted that too, even when I couldn't prove why. By the third or fourth time, I wasn't even upset about the actual money anymore. I was upset that I couldn't predict it. That's the part that actually got under my skin. Not the missing dollars, but not knowing when it would happen next, or how much, or why. I started checking the jar every single day, sometimes twice, just to know exactly where things stood before anything could surprise me. It happened again after that. And again, smaller amounts, easy to explain away individually, impossible to ignore as a pattern. I never actually caught him lying about anything specific. I just slowly stopped trusting the jar and then stopped trusting him with anything shared at all. By the time I moved out, I was tracking every grocery receipt myself, splitting things down to the penny, treating every shared dollar like it needed a paper trail. I told myself that was just being responsible. Looking back, it was something else. It was the moment I decided shared money isn't safe money. If you're not the one holding it, watching it, controlling exactly where it goes, it gets quietly taken from you, a few dollars at a time, until you're the only one who even notices. So a few weeks ago, sitting on the couch, I watched my partner open our joint account on her phone and move a chunk of money from checking into savings. $20? Nothing. Genuinely nothing. Without asking me first. And that old feeling showed up so fast I didn't even recognize it as a memory at first. Just pure alarm. Where's it going? Why didn't she ask? What else has moved that I don't know about? Hey, you just took money out without telling me? She looked up, a little confused by how sharp my voice came out over $20. I moved it to savings. I mentioned we were doing that this month, remember? She had. I remembered the second she said it. This wasn't Blaze. This wasn't a jar on a counter with money quietly disappearing. This was a plan we'd actually made together, that I'd actually agreed to, that I'd just forgotten, because some older, faster part of me didn't wait around for the facts before it reacted. I apologized. She was gracious about it, more gracious than the moment probably deserved, but I sat with it after, once I was alone, because $20 moving to an account I already knew about should never have produced that much panic. If that just hit you. Because you've ever reacted to something small with a fear that was actually about something much older, hit that like button right now, because you're not alone in this. And Mo is just getting started. I sat with that apology for a while after Mia left the room. Not proud of the reaction, but genuinely curious about it now instead of just embarrassed by it, which felt like a different thing entirely than how I usually handled moments like that. That's when I realized this had nothing to do with my partner, or $20 or savings accounts at all. This was Blaze. This was a kitchen jar, years ago, and a decision I made about what shared money means that I never actually revisited since. I built a rule out of one bad roommate. Shared money gets taken. Watch it constantly or lose it. And I carried that rule into a relationship with someone who has never once given me a real reason to distrust her, treating every shared dollar like it was still sitting in that jar on Blaze's kitchen counter. Here's the problem with a rule like that. It doesn't stay contained to the person who earned it. It just quietly applies itself to whoever's closest, whether they deserve it or not. A couple weeks after that, I caught myself doing it again in a completely different context. A friend of mine, Desmond, and I were splitting the cost of a group gift for another friend's engagement, and Desmond offered to just handle the whole purchase and have everyone Venmo him their share afterward. My first instinct was to say no, let's each buy our own piece separately. Let's not have money sitting with just one person. I actually opened my mouth to say it before catching myself. This wasn't Blaze. This was Desmond, a friend I'd known for over a decade, someone who has never once handled shared money carelessly in all that time. The guy who still remembers exact amounts he owed people from trips we took years ago, who's never let a debt sit uncomfortably for anyone, ever, not once that I could recall. I let him handle it. And I want to be honest about how uncomfortable that actually was, because it wasn't a small thing for me. I found myself checking my phone more than I'd like to admit, half expecting some excuse, some vague explanation about where the money had gone. It felt uncomfortable the entire time, right up until everyone paid their share back within a day, exactly like it was supposed to happen, exactly like it always had with him before I ever started watching for a reason not to trust it. Desmond even sent a group text afterward, itemized, showing exactly what everyone owed and exactly what had been paid, completely unprompted, just because that's who he is. I remember reading it and feeling almost embarrassed by how much relief that single text gave me. So here's what I actually did about the bigger pattern once I saw it clearly running in more than one place. I sat Mia down one evening, not to apologize again, but to actually explain it. The jar, Blaze, the years of tracking every receipt down to the penny, the friend and the group gift, all of it. The whole shape of the thing laid out at once instead of scattered across a dozen small moments she'd never fully understood. She was quiet for a minute after I finished. Then she said something that actually stuck with me. I'm not him. You don't have to keep guarding money from me just because someone else gave you a reason to once. And then softer. Almost like she'd been holding on to this part for a while. I've noticed it, you know. The checking. I never knew why. That landed harder than I expected. She'd seen it this whole time. She just hadn't had the context to understand it wasn't about her. Here's what I actually figured out. Trust isn't something you extend once and never revisit. It's something you have to keep choosing, person by person, even when an old wound makes it feel safer not to. I want to be honest about something though. Blaze wasn't wrong to teach me caution. Some people really do handle shared money carelessly, and it really is worth noticing when that's happening. My mistake wasn't learning the lesson. My mistake was applying it forever, to everyone, without ever checking whether the person in front of me had actually earned that same suspicion. Mia never took $1 from that jar. She's never even seen that jar. But I made her prove her innocence against a crime she didn't commit, over and over every time $20 moved somewhere I hadn't personally approved. Blaze taught me something true back then. But I never let that lesson expire. I just kept renewing it, automatically, on everyone, for 20 years. Until it stopped being something I'd learned and became something I was just afraid of. And look, if nobody ever taught you this stuff, that's exactly why this channel exists. Hit subscribe, because Mo figured it out, and now it's your turn. I don't think about Blaze much these days. I don't even know where he ended up, whether he's still leaving jars of shared money short somewhere, whether he ever thought twice about any of it. Probably not, honestly. I don't think it was ever that significant to him. It was just 22 years old and careless with someone else's cash for a few months, the way a lot of 22-year-olds are. But I carried a version of him into every shared dollar for years, without ever noticing I was doing it. Into every roommate after him. Into every friend who ever offered to cover something. Into Mia, who never once gave me a single real reason to count anything twice. And there's something else this left me with. If one bad roommate could quietly write the rules for how I've handled money with everyone since, partners, family, even strangers in a business deal, I have to wonder how many other financial rules I'm still living by that got written by just one person, one moment, a long time ago, and never actually updated since. Stick around, because where Mo goes next, you're not going to want to miss it.